Initially a marvel of human engineering, the Titanic became a symbol of loss and sorrow in a tragic turn. Today, this grand ship is still unveiling secrets even after more than 100 years since its tragic sinking. These revelations make us rethink what we assumed about the Titanic, prompting us to revisit its legacy and the untold stories lingering beneath the surface of the Atlantic. What more is there to know about this catastrophic piece of history? Join us as we delve into 20 bone-chilling Titanic facts no one knew. Number 20. The canceled drill. A lifeboat drill might sound like a simple routine, but it's crucial for ship safety. During these drills, the crew would fine-tune their skills, preparing, launching, and controlling the lifeboats. The passengers also get prepped on evacuation procedures during the drill, learning how to stay calm and behave in case of an emergency. Ideally, these drills should happen weekly. Now here's where the Titanic's story takes a turn. The ship set sail on April 10th, and the drill was scheduled for April 14th. However, for some unknown reason, Captain Smith called off the drill. This decision is shrouded in mystery, till date, as no one knows why he called it off. Maybe he was overly confident or assumed with only 3 days left, it wasn't necessary. Unfortunately, that canceled drill cost lives. When the crisis struck, neither passengers nor crew were prepared for an evacuation. As a result, some lifeboats capable of holding 60 people were launched barely half full. It's a haunting reminder of how one seemingly small decision can have colossal consequences. That canceled drill, whether due to overconfidence or a miscalculation, left everyone unprepared for the catastrophe that followed. The lack of preparedness led to chaos during the evacuation, contributing to the loss of many lives. The Titanic disaster underscored the importance of regular safety drills and being prepared for the worst-case scenario. It's a lesson in the significance of routine safety procedures, emphasizing that even the most routine tasks are critical in ensuring passenger and crew safety aboard any ship. The decision to skip that drill altered the course of history and became a tragic example of how overlooking safety protocols can have devastating outcomes in critical situations. Number 19. Fake news. In the early 20th century, newspapers grappled with the power of accurate reporting, aware of the impact misprints or misleading news could wield. Following the Titanic's tragic sinking, a British newspaper, the Daily Mail, made a blunder that turned into one of history's unintentionally horrific mistakes. On April 16, 1912, just a day after the Titanic met its fate with the iceberg, the Daily Mail boldly declared that while the ship indeed collided with an iceberg, no lives had been lost. That was a huge misstep, considering the grim reality of the disaster. It's safe to assume the people at the Daily Mail swiftly learned the actual truth. In today's digital age, errors can be corrected swiftly, but back then, rectifying such mistakes wasn't as immediate. Now, while some might label it as one of the better mistakes of the Daily Mail, it's undoubtedly a blunder no newspaper wishes to own. Imagine the scramble within the newsroom as they realized the magnitude of their mistake. Heads probably rolled for that blunder, especially given the gravity of the situation. It's a classic example of the pressure newspapers face to rush stories to print, aiming for speed over accuracy. But as we know, haste can lead to blunders. Even though it's been dubbed as a better mistake, it underscores the responsibility of the press to prioritize accuracy over rapidity. This incident, though a century old, serves as a reminder that even established newspapers can falter when haste takes precedence over accuracy, causing ripples that echo through history. Number 18. Musicians played till the end. Amidst the fear, panic, and chaos that was brewing as the Titanic slowly sank into the sea, the musicians on the ship held on to their instruments, playing tune after tune. Brave things were done that night, but none were more brave than those done by the men playing minute after minute. Despite the looming tragedy and the knowledge that their fate was sealed, these courageous men continued to play because they knew the power of music. They believed it could soothe, console, and make the horror of the situation a tad bit bearable. They played on until the very last second, refusing to let go of their instruments. Sadly, their bravery came at a cost. None of the 8 musicians survived the sinking. Only 3 bodies were recovered, and among them was the youngest musician, who was just 21 years old. In those final moments, these musicians found solace in their music, providing a fleeting moment of calm amidst the chaos. Their selflessness and dedication to their craft, even in the face of impending doom, are a testament to the power of art and the resilience of the human spirit. Number 17. The victims remain unknown. The Titanic tragedy was devastating. More than 1,500 passengers and crew lost their lives when the ship sank a century ago. Out of these, only about 340 bodies were found floating in life jackets shortly after, but just 337 bodies were recovered. That means more than 1,150 people, nearly 1 in every 5 who perished, remain unfound. It's a baffling mystery. Even today, what happened to these souls remains unknown. Some believe they sank with the ship, while others think ocean currents dispersed their remains far and wide, making it nearly impossible to recover them. There are even claims that parts of the crew's bodies might still lie near the Titanic, resting on the ocean floor. The mere thought of those lost souls lying at the bottom of the ocean strikes a chord. These were individuals who deserved the chance to live a complete life, yet fate had a different plan. It's a harsh reality. Number 16. Bathing issues. If you're someone who values cleanliness, count your blessings you weren't aboard the Titanic. This is not just because of the sinking, but for the likely stench inside the ship. What they discovered in the Titanic shocked the whole world. While the wealthiest passengers might have had their own bathrooms, in third class, it was a different story. 700 people shared just 2 bathrooms with 2 tubs. 200 women had to share 1 bathtub, while over 450 men shared the other. And as for the children, no one knows where they bathed. It's quite possible they didn't bathe at all, considering that most adults of that era weren't big fans of washing. Interestingly, for some passengers, the Titanic represented an improvement in hygiene. Before boarding, many people didn't even have bathtubs at home. They had to make do with a good old sponge bath. Also, though first-class passengers had their private tubs, they went a week between baths, which was the norm back then. They spent the journey marinating in their own sweat and odor. The Titanic, in all its grandeur, was a microcosm of the social norms and comforts of that era, including the not-so-pleasant ones. Number 15. Jacob Aster. 4. We all know the Titanic carried thousands of people from diverse backgrounds. Interestingly, among them was John Jacob Aster IV, a big-shot businessman and hotel tycoon from New York City. This man was born into wealth. He knew how to multiply it through clever investments, including the development of the iconic Waldorf Astoria Hotel with his cousin, William Waldorf Astor. Now, Aster, being the savvy businessman he was, had a rather unexpected reason for being aboard the Titanic. His pregnant wife was traveling, and he arranged for their trip on the Titanic so she could give birth in the United States. But fate took a harsh turn when the ship collided with an iceberg, spelling doom for many on board. When chaos struck and the ship started to sink, Aster couldn't secure a spot on a lifeboat with his wife. Accounts suggest he stood alone as the Titanic met its tragic end. At that time, he was reportedly the wealthiest person on the ship, but his story goes beyond just the loss of riches. When Astor's body was found in the wreckage, investigators discovered a gold pocket watch among his belongings. His son, Vincent, claimed and cherished that watch for the rest of his life. It's a poignant reminder of a father's legacy and a touching way to keep his memory alive. Number 14. The tragedy could have been avoided. David Blair was a man who dodged the colossal Titanic tragedy. He was slated to be the second officer on the Titanic, but fate intervened at the last moment, pulling him out. While this sounds like good luck, his joy was marred by a haunting realization that he might have been the one to save the Titanic. A century ago, ships lacked the smart technology we have today. Spotting dangers on the horizon required a good set of eyes and binoculars. Here's where it gets interesting. The Titanic's crew didn't have easy access to the binoculars because Blair, the man with the key, forgot to return it before leaving the ship in a hurry. The key, innocently sitting in his pocket, held the power to change the course of history. Had the crew had those binoculars, they might have spotted the iceberg in advance. The ship could have altered its course, potentially saving hundreds of lives, but the Titanic seemed destined for misfortune. A string of coincidences and mistakes sealed its fate, and once disaster struck, there was no turning back. Number 13. The Whiskey Survivor. Just like many of what they discovered in Titanic shocked the whole world, there's the story of a Titanic survivor that sounds like it's straight out of a satirical news piece. This survivor, Charles John Joughin, was the chief baker on board, and he claimed he owed his survival to whiskey. When the Titanic struck the iceberg, Joughin felt the jolt while off duty in his bunk. He sprang into action, sending his crew with provisions to the lifeboats and aiding the evacuation of women and children. Amidst this chaos, as he put it, he decided to take a drop of liquor. When the ship eventually went down, Juen somehow managed to stay afloat. He rode it out like he was in an elevator, gradually sinking into the water but keeping his head above the surface. In his own words, he paddled and trod water for a whopping 2 hours without feeling the cold, thanks to his booze insulation. When the lifeboats returned for survivors, there wasn't space for Jugin, so he clung to the side of a boat as it headed back to safety. Number 12. The fake funnel. The Titanic was indeed an icon of its time, with its 4 majestic funnels. However, only 3 of these funnels actually did anything useful. You may wonder why it had a 4th one that's just for show. Well, that 4th funnel served as a poser. It was a dummy, transformed into a ventilation system for the kitchen. The first 3 funnels did the hard work, connected to the ship's furnaces, billowing out smoke. But the last one was purely for aesthetics and symmetry, giving the ship a striking appearance. Some think adding that extra funnel was to make the Titanic look more powerful and grand. A vessel with 4 towering funnels definitely creates an impression, but was it really worth sacrificing function for style? It's intriguing how design choices were made back then. The Titanic's makers wanted it to be an awe-inspiring sight, a symbol of innovation and grandeur in shipbuilding. Yet, this decision to include a non-functional funnel raises questions about the balance between style and practicality in such engineering feats. Number 11. Not enough lifeboats. When it comes to designing vehicles, safety is a top priority. Engineers and designers go all out to ensure passengers' safety, but the Titanic story took a tragic turn in this aspect. Everyone knew it was a colossal ship, the largest of its time, capable of accommodating a whopping 3,547 people. However, during its maiden voyage, the Titanic sailed with 2,224 registered passengers, which was way less than its full capacity. Now, the original plan was to have 48 lifeboats on board, each capable of holding about 60 people. That would have saved a total of 1,200 people, just a little over half of the passengers on board. So why did they end up with only 20 lifeboats? Well, priorities went sideways here. The ship's owners pushed to reduce the number of lifeboats to 20, despite the initial plan. They didn't want the lifeboats cluttering the deck, blocking passages, or obstructing the scenic ocean view. They chose aesthetics and comfort over people's safety. In their defense, the Titanic was believed to be unsinkable. No one imagined it could go down so easily. They thought, even if damaged, the ship could stay afloat for quite some time. They didn't consider the possibility of an immediate evacuation for all passengers. The tragedy of the Titanic highlights a critical oversight of prioritizing appearance and comfort over safety. It's a sobering reminder of how assumptions about invincibility can lead to devastating consequences. The belief that a ship was unsinkable led to a fatal lack of preparedness for a disaster of such magnitude. Number 10. Hypothermic death. The Titanic tragedy hits harder when you realize the grim reality that most souls on board faced a perilous demise within minutes. As the ship descended into the icy abyss, the water temperature plunged to a bone-chilling 28 degrees Fahrenheit, below freezing point. Now, it doesn't take a genius to grasp that humans can't endure such extreme conditions. Survival in this frigid sea was a mere fantasy. The harsh truth is that very few could have lasted more than 15 minutes, with an alarming estimate suggesting that 1 in 5 succumbed within a mere 2 minutes of touching the water. The victims weren't claimed by the impact or any dramatic event. Instead, it was the brutal environment that their bodies couldn't withstand. It's a chilling reality, and this aspect stands out as particularly harrowing. Think of the sheer terror and disorientation as your body succumbs to the merciless grip of freezing waters. It's a scenario that no one should face as the final chapter of their lives unfolds. Number 9. The engineer's sacrifice. Nearly 900 crew members were aboard the Titanic, but tragically, less than a third survived. Among the casualties were all the engineers, heroes who gave everything to keep the ship afloat. There were 25 engineers, 6 electrical engineers, 2 boilermakers, a plumber, and a clerk. While chaos reigned above on the deck, these brave souls stayed down in the boiler rooms, battling against time and the relentless flooding. They aimed to keep the electricity running and the pumps operating, fighting to slow the inevitable sinking inch by inch. They didn't abandon their posts, knowing the crucial role role they played in sustaining the ship's vital systems. Every effort they made, every moment they toiled, was a fight against a disaster they couldn't fully comprehend. They were holding back the inevitable. Despite the grim reality that the disaster couldn't be averted, the engineers stand as symbols of incredible courage, unwavering bravery, and selfless dedication. Their unwavering commitment to their duty, even in the face of impending catastrophe, showcases the depth of human resilience and sacrifice. Today, in the city of Southampton, a memorial stands in honor of these heroes. It serves as a poignant reminder of their sacrifice and valor, ensuring their legacy lives on. Number 8. The nearby ship. One of the most gut-wrenching truths about the Titanic disaster revolves around a missed chance for salvation. Shockingly, a mere 20 miles away, another ship could have altered the grim outcome but didn't. The tale, however, holds an even sadder twist. The SS Californian, merely 20 miles from where the Titanic met its tragic fate, had halted to steer clear of the very iceberg that was causing chaos for its fellow vessel. As the Titanic's crew, gripped by panic, fired distress flares into the night, hoping for a lifeline, fate played its hand. The crew aboard the SS Californian spotted these flares, a glimmer of hope piercing the darkness. But here's where the tale turns sour. Captain Stanley Lord, at the helm of the Californian, dismissed these signals, deeming them mere company rockets. That single decision, as fate would have it, rewrote history's course. When the SS Californian later received distress calls from the Titanic, it was a haunting realization. The gravity of the situation dawned on them, but it was too late. When the SS Californian eventually reached the site of the catastrophe, a scene of tragedy awaited. All that remained were lifeless bodies bobbing in the frigid waters. The repercussions of the captain's inaction were staggering, costing over 1,500 lives. A haunting aftermath followed as Captain Stanley Lord spent the rest of his days grappling with the weight of this catastrophic choice, striving tirelessly to clear his tarnished name. Number 7. Thomas Andrews. Looking back, it's easy to spot the flaws in the Titanic's design, but back then, everyone believed it was unsinkable. However, not everyone was oblivious to the risks, especially those involved in its construction. Here is Thomas Andrews Jr., the man behind the Titanic's plans. His role as the naval architect made him a key figure on that tragic night, and he knew exactly what the collision meant for the ship. When Andrews inspected the damaged section, he reached a grim conclusion that the Titanic would certainly sink, and immediately he sprang into action. Despite the grim reality that there weren't enough lifeboats for everyone, Andrews did everything he could. He urged hesitant passengers into the lifeboats, hoping to maximize the number of people they could carry to safety. In the chaos of the sinking, Andrews displayed remarkable courage and selflessness. He wasn't concerned about his own safety. Instead, he focused on aiding others. Sadly, Andrews met his fate in the sinking of the Titanic, and his body was never recovered from the icy depths. It's crucial not to hold Andrews responsible for the ship's sinking. In those dire circumstances, he stepped up, doing everything within his power to help as many people escape as possible. He exemplified true heroism, rising to the occasion and displaying extraordinary bravery in the face of disaster. Number 6. The underwater robots. In 2012, a milestone moment emerged in the ongoing investigation into the Titanic's fate after it sank. Some experts, armed with cutting-edge technology, pieced together what could be the definitive answer about the ship's resting place. This breakthrough came in the form of a comprehensive map. The expedition team deployed sonar and underwater robots, capturing over a staggering 100,000 images of the Titanic wreck site. These visuals formed the backbone of a remarkable map, revealing scattered artifacts and remnants of the ship strewn across the ocean floor. It's like the first high-resolution map that showcases the complete debris field left by the Titanic's tragic end. And it's indeed a groundbreaking achievement, just like to Robert Ballard's initial discovery of the wreckage back in 1985. This mapping triumph owed its success to the incredible strides in technology. Today's tools, especially the prowess of underwater robots, played a starring role in unraveling the Titanic's secrets. Using these robots to create a 3D map of a sunken ship is mind-blowing. This technological leap opened new windows into understanding how the Titanic broke apart and its current state, offering us a deeper insight than ever before into this historical tragedy. Before we continue, let's have today's subscribers' pick. As we already know, many of what they discovered in Titanic shocked the whole world. A lot of the victims of the wreck remain unknown, including children. When you wander through the Fairfield Cemetery in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada, you'll stumble upon a solemn resting place for over 100 Titanic victims. Astonishingly, more than 30 of these souls remain nameless, shrouded in a mystery that persists to this day. However, 2008 marked a turning point for one such anonymous grave. After nearly a century of obscurity, this grave was granted an identity through an extraordinary feat of science and determination. DNA testing, coupled with a global genealogical quest, was used to unveil the story behind an unnamed 19-month-old baby. It's disheartening to imagine what this baby must have gone through. What do you think of this situation? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Number 5. The belongings. Over the years, since Robert Ballard's groundbreaking discovery of the Titanic wreck, many research missions have ventured to the site. One of these missions unveiled a profoundly haunting discovery. During a 1987 research dive, experts stumbled upon a purse within the wreck's debris, and they found precious jewelry, likely belonging to one of the wealthier passengers aboard the ill-fated ship. However, this was just the tip of the iceberg, if you'll pardon the pun. An American salvage company later attempted an operation to cut into the wreck, aiming to retrieve valuable artifacts and historical treasures. Now, this move stirred quite a controversy, especially with the British government, who strongly opposed the endeavor. Yet, the jewels recovered during the 1987 research mission were eventually displayed, evoking a mixture of fascination and unease. But the sheer volume of clothes and personal effects still resting at the ocean's depths is wild to contemplate. These belongings were once crucial to the passengers, holding immense sentimental and historical value. Now they remain untouched. Number 4. Miss Unsinkable. Back in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the White Star Line reigned supreme as the world's largest shipping company. In 1907, they embarked on a grand plan to build 3 huge ocean liners. They were the Titanic, the Olympic, and the initially named Gigantic, later renamed Britannic. Despite their sheer size and opulence, all 3 met tragic ends, cementing their status as the most famous ships in history. Now, there was Violet Constance Jessup, an unassuming stewardess born in Argentina, who earned the nickname Miss Unsinkable. Her remarkable story began in 1911 when the Olympic, one of the White Star Line trio, collided with the cruiser Hawk. Miraculously, no lives were lost. Then, moving on to the infamous Titanic disaster in 1912, and Violet found herself on board yet again. This time, fortune favored her as she secured a spot on a lifeboat, escaping the sinking ship. But Violet's journey didn't end there. During World War I, she served as a nurse with the British Red Cross aboard the Britannic, then a hospital ship. Fate threw another curveball on November 21, 1916, when the Britannic struck a mine and exploded. Incredibly, Violet survived once more, solidifying her reputation as Miss Unsinkable. The curious twist to Violet's tale lies in her initial reluctance to work for the White Star Line. Persuaded by friends who believed it would be a stellar recommendation for her future, she joined the Titanic crew. Whether you label Violet Jessup lucky or not, her series of incidents remains shrouded in mystery and curiosity. Number 3. The Icebergs Origin. A group of researchers took an unconventional route to revisit the Titanic's tragic fate. Grant Bigg, from Sheffield University, led a team that utilized advanced computer modeling. They delved into historical data from 1912 and combined it with contemporary information on ocean currents and wind patterns. Through this fusion of past and present knowledge, they retraced the iceberg's path, the very one that led to the Titanic's demise. Their findings painted a vivid picture. The iceberg that sealed the Titanic's fate likely originated near Kissimmee on the southwest coast of Greenland. This huge ice mass was estimated to be a staggering 400 feet long and protruded about 100 feet above the ocean's surface, weighing an estimated 300,000 pounds or 1.5 metric tons. While the iceberg's origin tale might not match the drama and emotional depth of the Titanic story itself, it's a captivating narrative in its own right. It's intriguing how scientific advancements, like computer modeling, allow us to revisit historical events from new angles. In this case, it's not about Hollywood drama, but the fascinating insights that emerge when technology meets history. Interestingly, despite the potential for a Titanic 2 narrative focusing on the iceberg, it hasn't made its way into the movie world. Perhaps filmmakers tread cautiously around this sensitive historical event, honoring the lives lost and the profound tragedy rather than turning it into a Hollywood blockbuster. Number 2. Bacteria. The world always seems to juggle a bunch of crises, but the environmental one is a heavyweight among them. It's even impacting the Titanic. Scientists are painting a grim picture. They predict that within the next 10 years, the Titanic's wreckage might vanish completely. In 2010, microbiologists stumbled upon proteobacteria on the rusticles recovered from the Titanic. They aptly named this newfound bacteria Titanic A. You'd think scientists would be over the moon about discovering something new, but this time, it was dejected. Their findings weren't promising at all. According to their latest calculations, by 2030, the ship might have deteriorated so much that there might not be a trace of the Titanic left. This piece of history, a tangible link to one of the most tragic disasters in our history, would be fading into oblivion. It's disheartening to even think about it. The Titanic's wreckage holds immense historical value, serving as a tangible reminder of the human cost of that catastrophe. And its gradual disappearance is a testament to the power of nature, showing how even the mightiest structures succumb to the elements over time. It also poses a challenge for future generations, urging us to find ways to preserve historical remnants in the face of environmental threats. Number 1. Split in half. For a whopping 73 years following the Titanic's tragedy, the prevailing belief was that the grand ship had met its watery end in one solid piece. Experts were pretty convinced that any visible damage would be confined to the hull's collision with the infamous iceberg, but that turned out to be quite far from the truth. The big reveal happened when conflicting eyewitness reports surfaced about whether the Titanic broke into two pieces. That was when the second officer, Charles Herbert Lightoller, who was the senior-most crew member to survive the ordeal, got introduced. Lightoller, when asked about the sinking, staunchly maintained that the ship was entirely intact as it descended into the abyss. As you can imagine, his account held considerable weight, given his high rank among the survivors. Then, in 1982, oceanographer Robert Ballard secured U.S. Navy funding to develop a robotic submersible, a cutting-edge tech marvel back in the day, to explore the Titanic wreck. Despite the ticking clock, and a mere 12 days to locate the wreckage, Ballard pulled off the impossible. His discovery not only confirmed that the ship had indeed split into two, but also left a debris trail, effectively debunking the long-held notion of the Titanic's unified descent. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.